My Fairy Encounters, Part 2. Many of you are aware that not only do I teach the principles of A Course in Miracles, but I also have had many mysterious and otherworldly experiences as well. I love to share all of these aspects of my life because they seem to be interconnected through the common thread of unconditional love. I know this because this is the feeling that's always present in my heart when the unexplainable or miraculous takes place in my life. This story is one such encounter, and it is a continuation of events that started back in the winter of 2022 as I began to reach out to the unseen world of nature spirits surrounding us. To my delight, I have had contact with fairies, tree spirits, and even Sasquatch. Many months have passed since winter, without event until recently. If you would like to refresh your memory, or read for the first time, the events that took place prior to what I'm about to share next, you will find it on my website under the Miracle Minded Messages tab, titled My Fairy Encounters Part 1. So, here's what's happened since. On June 5th, 2022, I went on a walk in my favorite part of our woods, the half-mile looping path that takes me to the fairy garden I arranged around my special talking tree. To recap why I call this particular tree my talking tree, is because all winter long in 2022 it would creak conspicuously each time I passed by it. My inner voice informed me that this particular tree was greeting me each time I passed, acknowledging me because I was acknowledging the beauty of the forest. Eventually, this communication became two-way as I opened my mind to the vibrant energy of the tree herself and the surrounding nature spirits in the forest. This led me to be inspired to create a fairy garden around her. Nothing more than a few shells, painted rocks, and a piece or two of flowing fabric tied to some nearby branches. And so, on this day I visited my fairy garden, I discovered that a number of items had been disturbed. There had been some storms since I last checked in on it, and I was sure the weather or the ample number of squirrels running about must be the culprits who had moved my shells and rocks around. It was nothing new to see things had shifted a bit. However, this day I noticed that one of my painted rocks was flipped completely face down. This was an odd thing, given that the rock was about the size of the palm of my hand and seemed a bit large and awkward to be moved even by a squirrel. Even so, I discounted it as nothing unusual. I did note, however, that of all the trinkets I'd set around the tree, there was one thing that had never been moved. A white shell I'd stuck tight into the bark about 3 feet high off the ground. I touched it gently, checking that it was still secure in its nook. After setting everything right, I stood with my hands and face pressed against the tree and sent it all my love down through its roots and out into the surrounding countryside. When I finished, I opened my eyes and looked about at the stunning beauty of my surroundings and thoughtfully addressed the nature spirits. You're all doing such magnificent work. This place is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, and I love you. Just as I completed my thought, a nearby tree creaked with a long, high pitch. I instantly knew in my heart that this was their acknowledgement of my loving thoughts. The nature spirits had indeed heard me. When you address the nature spirits, they will always answer, but it's usually very subtle, and you have to be paying close attention. It could be anything, but you will know it when it comes. My heart was full of love for them as I continued on my walk, marveling at this small encounter. And as I walked, I wondered about the items that had been moved around my fairy garden, particularly the flat rock. Could the nature spirits move solid objects? Had they had any part in moving my things around? I had no way of really knowing, and I try to be logical, despite my belief in the unseen. I then thought, half in jest to myself, well, if I come here sometime and find one of my fairy garden objects on the seat of my stump chair, I will have no room for doubt. This was not a request, mind you, just an amusing thought, because I would never expect such a thing to happen. I walked on then, and my thoughts drifted instead to the fairies themselves and other nature spirits. Besides my tree friends, I was certain many nature beings existed unseen all around me. I wondered if I would see any sign of them this glorious day. And a few moments later, I most certainly did. I saw a lovely yellow leaf gracefully swaying in the gentle breeze, stuck on the end of a long silk inchworm thread. Each spring, as part of their life cycle, the inchworm larvae drop to the ground from the trees on silk threads. I had never seen a leaf stuck to one before, and it made a lovely video to add to my collection for use in the audio-video versions of these blogs. This sight was so beautiful and unusual that I was sure it was a gift from my unseen fairy friends. Indeed, for all the world, it certainly looked like a fairy fluttering mid-air in the breeze. Again, you have to be perceptive to witness their reply to your extension of love to them. It could be anything: a waft of the scent of flowers, a shift in the lighting, or a lovely bird call. And I thought the sight of this graceful leaf swaying in the gentle breeze was a unique and wonderful reflection of their beauty. I took it to be their answer to my own loving thoughts sent out to them. I finished my walk for the day and returned to the house without any further nature events, and again completely forgetting about my light-hearted thoughts about them leaving something from my fairy garden on the stump at the base of my talking tree. The next day, I set out to walk the same path, and as I came around the corner to where the stump was, I was beyond astounded. I stopped dead in my tracks, for there, perched on the edge of it, was a single shell from my fairy garden, and it wasn't just any shell. It was the one I checked on the day before that was stuck tight into the bark on the other side of the tree that had never budged a bit all year long. And now here it was, unstuck and placed conspicuously on my stump, literally the next day after my thoughts about this. I couldn't believe it. I followed up my thoughts of amazement with the promise that I would indeed never doubt they existed. There would be no changing my mind from that point on that nature spirits were truly a part of our reality, though we could not see them. As A Course in Miracles states, there truly is a world beyond this one we cannot see. My heart was exploding with love, excitement, and sheer amazement. Now, some may say that perhaps a squirrel or raccoon moved the shell, or even the wind may have somehow blown it around to the opposite side of the tree trunk to rest in that exact position. However, even if any of that had happened, the sheer timing of the shell's placement on the very next day after I'd had my thoughts about what if just such a thing happened was mind-blowing in itself. Mother Nature and all the entities that work with her had my heart. I would never look at any growing thing the same way again. The next day, I went out on the same walk and found nothing on my stump, which came as no surprise. I had no demands on my unseen friends and was content with the ordinary. I then decided to sit on it a while and meditate on the beauty surrounding me, still in awe of the events from the day before. When I finished, I again stood as I always did, leaning with my cheek and hands resting against the talking tree, sending love to her and the rest of the forest. I stayed there a few moments with my eyes closed, but then I became aware of a soft warmth on my face and golden light piercing my closed eyelids. I opened my eyes to see that a gentle breeze had subtly moved a few upper branches, creating a small opening, and now a single shaft of sunlight was shining through the thick upper canopy onto my face. The the leaves were fully grown in by this time of year, and the wooded area was otherwise mostly dark. There were no other shafts of light finding their way down to the forest floor. And I thought to myself, "Ah, you always answer my love for you with some sign of your own. Thank you, nature spirits." What a beautiful way to show me they could hear me. Again, the many ways nature spirits answer us can vary. The only thing you need do is to be perceptive, and that is it. Do not make whimsical requests just to see if they will respond or prove that they exist. Such requests will go unanswered, for such requests are of the ego, and the purpose does not stem from loving faith. I believe the nature spirits moved the shell in my garden to the stump only because I made no demand and had no expectation. It was simply an amusing thought I had, but they used the opportunity to teach me of their existence, but only because my heart already knew the truth. I already believed, and had told them so frequently in the past. I made it clear they need never show themselves to me to prove their existence. I believed without seeing, the same as I had faith in God. In the Bible it says, "And Jesus said to him, Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and still believed." John 20:29. So, who are the nature spirits and what do they want? I have found the answer to this question and many more in a lovely book that was recommended to me recently by a friend. It's helped explain much of what's happened to me. It's called Encounters with Nature Spirits, Co-Creating with the Elemental Kingdom by Robert Ogilvy Crombie, or Rock as he's nicknamed by his initials. Here is an excerpt from the book I found particularly informative. The speaker is Pan, the oversoul or caretaker of all the elemental spirits. On a side note, the word Pan literally means all-inclusive or oneness. Therefore, Pan is the collective one self of the nature kingdom, which is also part of our one self in God. And he states, "The smallest of them, the nature spirits, has more potential power than the strongest human being. It is lucky for mankind that we, the nature spirits, are infinitely tolerant and understanding, and that we obey God's will. If we used a fraction of the power we have, we could wipe the whole of mankind off the face of the earth. We are not here to be the slaves of humanity, but to collaborate with it to bring about a world of peace, cooperation, and brotherly love, a world free from wars and violence." Encounters with Nature Spirits, page 84. This statement carries such power and hope for us. We have only to reach out to the world beyond the one we see with love and cooperation in our hearts, and we will be met by this unseen world with equal love and cooperation. Another thing I've noticed about the wooded area where my trail meanders is the itchweed has all but disappeared in it, as well as the flying insects that typically pester me, such as gnats and mosquitoes. Since I began cultivating my relationship with the nature spirits, gnats and mosquitoes that normally swarm my head would dissipate the instant I entered this particularly wooded area. And the itchweed that normally carpets the floor has been taken over by wild ginger, a beautiful flowering lily pad-like ground cover, which used to be sparse compared to the itchweed. The book Encounters with Nature Spirits speaks about how such positive changes can often take place through the nature spirits' help in areas where humans have joined with them in like-mindedness. In the case of my own woods, the transformation has been dramatic. This then begs another question in my mind. Do the fairies mind if we pull weeds, or mow the grass, or eat plants? The answer is, they don't mind a bit. In fact, they love co-creating with us, shaping nature into beautiful areas where both humans and nature spirits can enjoy each other. However, they do ask that in every garden or groomed area, you leave just a small, wild space for them as their own personal center from which to work. This may all seem a bit far-fetched for some to believe, but I ask only that you keep an open mind. For A Course in Miracles states, "Beyond this world, there is a world I want," and "God created only the eternal, and everything you see is perishable. Therefore, there must be another world that you do not see." And we must never forget, the real world can actually be perceived. All that is necessary is a willingness to perceive nothing else. A Course in Miracles, Chapter 11, Section 7. So, how do we change our perception in order to become more sensitive to the unseen world around us? As it turns out, the book Encounters with Nature Spirits has a passage in it describing the necessary inner characteristics we need to expand in order to maximize our ability to perceive them. It states, to begin with, one characteristic that is fundamental to the whole community: total dedication to work for the light under God's guidance, turning within to seek that guidance and develop cosmic consciousness, seeking to further universal love and the brotherhood of man, and to search unremittingly for the truth. Encounters with Nature Spirits, page 107. Please note the striking similarity between these characteristics and those taught in A Course in Miracles for achieving Christ vision. Turning within, overlooking the physical world, and attaining a sense of oneness with all living things are key concepts in A Course in Miracles. The passage goes on to state other qualities we can work on, such as special qualities are love of the earth and all vegetation, love of the work that has to be done, a determination to respect the earth and all growing things, and to refrain from using chemicals and undue force to modify or alter the natural growth of plants, constantly remembering that plants are living things with a high degree of sensitivity, a total acceptance of the reality of the elemental kingdom. Encounters with Nature Spirits, page 107. This rings true to my heart as I learn to practice the feeling of oneness with all living and non-living things that I see with my bodily eyes. For what we do to another, we do to our one self. If we can love the living energy that lies beyond physical form, so too do we free ourselves from the limitations of our own physical form. Loving all things in this way is to be in this world, but not of it. As A Course in Miracles says, "But exempt no one from your love, or you will be hiding a dark place in your mind where the Holy Spirit is not welcome, and thus you will exempt yourself from His healing power. For by not offering total love, you will not be healed completely." A Course in Miracles, text chapter 13, section 3. And I fully believe this all-inclusive love must include both the seen and unseen, lest we leave one dark spot untransformed into light. Therefore, fear nothing, for there is no darkness in whatever form you believe it to be, stronger than the transformative power of God's love to bring it back into the vibration of peace and light. All you have to do is give it to Him, and His will be done. For as A Course in Miracles states, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. A Course in Miracles, Chapter 1, Section 1. Always, always look beyond the forms you see, to the light that brings life to everything, for there is only one of us here. Encounters with Nature Spirits states, let us be aware of our mistaken beliefs so that we can attune to the wonderful energies of nature without limiting them to any particular form. If we do that, We can truly blend our energies with theirs, for we humans have the capacities in our God selves to attune to whatever lives on the planet. It is vital at this time, when so much of humanity is polarized to the greed of the lower levels, for us to be open to the truth, to vital nature energies, and to the harmony needed to save the planet. Let us cease glamorizing form and instead ground the reality. Let us bring together the many mansions on this earth. Encounters with Nature Spirits, page 192. And with these beautiful words, let us each step up and answer God's call to love all things as one thing, as part of our one self. Amen. Written, narrated, and produced by Beth Gear. For more from me, go to www.bethgear.com. There you will also find the transcript to this video under the Miracle-Minded Messages tab. And please, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and peace be with you.